I've got nothing. This is basically Ghostbusters with arcade games. I've got nothing witty, nothing insightful. I just don't really have anything to really start this off, so let's just go with the review. The biggest strength of this film is that it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's short, quick, and to the point. The story is very simple and pretty formulaic, but moves at a quick enough pace to avoid dragging. This in turn allows for the humor to stand out fairly well. That said, there aren't any scenes or jokes that are particularly memorable aside from what we've already seen in the marketing campaign, which is basically the scene with Pac-Man creator Toru Iwatani. There's nothing immediately quotable since most of the film's humor is visual, as the video game visuals are more or less what we're here to see. While the people making this film did do their best to recreate these classic games faithfully, there were a few times that the rules of the respective games had to be bent for the sake of drama or to move the story forward. This is mainly noticeable during the film's climax, but will only really be noticed by the die-hard fans of the arcade classics, which I wouldn't necessarily consider myself one of because, well, I grew up in the 90s and 2000s. On top of that, I get the feeling that the people behind this film don't have a particularly high opinion on the current generations of gaming, and I'm talking both current gen with Xbox One and PS4, and last gen with PS3, Xbox 360, and so on. And this is especially easy to see when you consider the blatant product placement they were forced to put in. The Last of Us! Other than that, the only real complaint I have is just the overall lack of memorability of this film. The acting is good, the pacing is tight, and the stylized effects look really good. But thinking back on it now, most of what I remember about the film was what was already shown in the various trailers. As such, like any other Happy Madison film, I would advise against paying full price to see this film. While I enjoyed the 3D, you're not going to really lose much by seeing this in 2D, so don't pay more than $8 or $9 at the most. Now, I know some people have been more or less eviscerating this film, but take it from me as someone who is a gamer, but didn't necessarily grow up with the arcade classics, who isn't that big of a fan of Adam Sandler, it's okay. That's pretty much the best way to put it, is that it's okay, and it could have been a lot worse. As such, I'm going to give Pixels a 4 out of 5. Let me remind you, my rating system is more or less a technical rating, meaning that there weren't that many things that actually pulled me out of the experience of the film. That said, like I mentioned, it's not that memorable, so don't break the bank trying to see this film. This is not an IMAX movie, and it's not really much of a 3D movie. There's not much spectacle to it. It's basically just nerdy humor written by people who aren't really that nerdy, except not to the level of, say, The Big Bang Theory. So, yeah, it's not as bad as everybody's saying, but it's not that great either. So, that's all I have to say about that, and that brings us to this end of Romney's reviews. I'm sorry this is kind of rough, but I'm already a couple reviews behind, and so I'm trying to hammer these out as best as I can. So, in the meantime, this is Romney signing off.